Hey guys, just a disclaimer before the video actually starts. This is a bit of a serious video. I'm just letting you know there's some sensitive things that I do touch on in this. I just don't want anybody who typically watches my normal videos to watch this if you're not comfortable with that. So just pointing that out there now. Okay, and now that you've had your disclaimer, let's begin. Over the last 6 months, it has been increasingly weighing on me. Typically when I have emotional breaks, it's usually some pretty significant things that have to happen kind of consecutively. The only other time in my entire life that I've had more or less an emotional breakdown was when I was really young. That's because I really didn't know how to handle myself, and it wasn't anything significant. It was just I had really bad anxiety growing up. Still kind of do, but it takes a lot to actually get me to that point. There's just a lot of stuff that has happened in my life over the last 6-7 months, and I have nobody to talk to about it. Or I do, but I also don't. We'll kind of get into what that means in a second, but I'm not losing my mind or anything. It's just the first time in a while that I've had a significant weight kind of put on my shoulders. And let me land the plane here real quick. For starters, we'll go back about 5.5 months ago. I have a friend who I practically grew up with. No, Mystic, it's not you. Mystic is still alive. I have another friend. I don't really talk about him to anybody because I've really never had a need to. He never crossed any paths with any of my other friends. So initially, he's lived in where I live in Connecticut for many, many, many years. He's lived here his whole life, never had the urge to move out of the state. He does very good at his job. And I've always told him, no glaze intentional, but you always glaze the homies a little bit. He's much better at his job than practically anybody he works with. So he got a job opportunity about 2,000 miles away in another state, and he did not want to take the job, which is understandable. It's a big move. You're moving out of the state, moving effectively across the country, and don't get it twisted. It was one of the best job opportunities a man could get. It was about 2.5 times what he was making currently, and he was already making good money. They were going to pay for the relocation, everything, and the cost of living out there was about 40% cheaper than it was here. So it was such a no-brainer that to me, I would have taken that in a heartbeat, because I don't really think super, super, super long-term when it comes to stuff like that, because my relative happiness is dependent on kind of what I'm doing, not necessarily what has happened to me. But he thinks very far ahead, and he just kind of figured it probably wouldn't be the best thing for him. After about 3 weeks of convincing him, he actually reached back out to the company and he asked to keep the job offer. They gave him the job offer, and he proceeded to take the 25-hour drive, and he parked in front of his apartment. He opened the door, and as he was stepping out of his car, a drunk driver hit the back of his car so hard that he effectively exploded across the dashboard. That's what his parents told me. That's specifically what his mom told me. They said the only way they found out that he was him is by his dental records, which is, it hits you in a way where it's very hard for me to comprehend it. I know I don't sound emotional right now. It's not because I had gotten over it. It's because I have a very hard time becoming emotional over things, even extreme things like that. That was more or less the cherry topper as to how the rest of the year has gone since then. So about 3 weeks after that, my great-grandmother died. And not just one, over 2 days, all three of them died. So when I say these three great-grandmothers literally raised me alongside my parents, but regardless, all three of them died within 2 days of each other. So that was a big turning point in terms of kind of how I felt. I didn't really think about it, but kind of looking back at it, that's really when I started eating less. I lost a lot of weight over the last 6 months, which is kind of crazy because I didn't have much weight to lose. And then if we kind of just keep going, my mom has had cancer on and off for about 10 years. She's been in remission for quite a while. And then about 4 months ago, they re-diagnosed her. She had pretty much more or less a really bad pressure where her kidney was, and that was the same kind of pressure in how she felt. It was the same way she felt when she originally had cancer in her kidney. So obviously raised a lot of red flags. When they went down there, it was stage 4 cancer. It was, I don't think the word is metastatic. I think that's only for breast cancer, but it was bad enough where it spread to her liver and it spread to her other kidney. I think that's what she said. And it's in 4 other places, but it actually, she pretty much went full, balls to the wall and did every single thing you could possibly do to shrink the cancer. And it actually worked. It went back down to stage 3, non-operable yet, obviously, because it's in too many places, it's too big. And the chemo does a really bad job at keeping your blood, able to clot itself. So her blood was really thin. She was taking a lot of blood thinners as well. So if they did anything besides a biopsy, it was more or less going to kill her. She would have bled out. So a few months goes by and she goes back to the doctor to do another test. And keep in mind, she's been blasting through chemo and radiation. She's doing all this. Her teeth literally fell out of her head. I'm not joking when I say that. She lost her teeth. She's had dentures for a while. I actually just found that out a few weeks ago. You couldn't even tell. They looked identical to her old teeth. And it was actually, I mean, she actually doesn't mind them. She actually says it's better than her old teeth because she could chew as hard as she wants and she doesn't feel it. That's pretty cool. But besides the point, yeah. So she went back, I would say about a month ago, and they found that it had spread to all the places that it originally left. It spread back. Now, typically with stuff like this, she would have went all out once again, but they informed her that what happened last time was a miracle, and by doing that same thing again, most likely she was going to die from the radiation and the chemo before the cancer. So she did it anyways, or at least I thought she did. And I found out about 2 weeks ago she stopped going for radiation, and she practically cut her chemo down to a minimum. It hurts to say that out loud. It does. And that's one of the few things that I've been able to say out loud that actually does have there's a moment that you kind of think about it and you're like, damn, life's really short. She's not old by any stretch of the imagination. She's 48. It's obviously 48 because she's had her 27th birthday for 21 years now, is what she says. That happened. The timeline for it, I don't know. So I'm just saying when it does inevitably happen, you will see me just randomly stop making videos. It won't be forever, but I'm just putting that out there now. And I guess since while we're on the topic of death, about 9-10 months ago, my sister tried to kill herself. I didn't even know she tried to do it the first time until I saw the scars on her wrist afterwards. And then about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from my mom while it was at work, and she's never called me ever when I'm at work. That's like a rule of thumb. I usually can't even pick up the phone, but I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? This guy's cool. He's gonna let me pick up my phone and everything. Okay, cool. So I get the news that she tried it again. I take the 2.5-hour drive to the psychiatric care center that they put her in. That was the closest one from where she was, which still happened to be on the complete opposite corner of the state. I was close to Salisbury at the time, and hers brought her all the way down like the Groton, Norwalk area, I believe it was, which 5 p.m. on I think I was a Thursday or Friday. It was brutal. Traffic everywhere. You're not sure if she's even alive, and you can't call her. She doesn't have her phone on her. They don't let you have your phone on you for obvious reasons, and we're going to fast forward a little bit. She's fine. She got out of the hospital. They gave her medication. I don't know too much of what was going on in her personal life. Never really asked because it's just one of those things where, you don't really know how much you love somebody. You never really appreciate that thing until you completely lose it. When they gave me that call and I stopped what I was doing and left, those 2.5 hours were effectively a flashback, like a reel of kind of what happened over our life together. And it sounds a little weird to say it out loud. Nobody really says, oh, I love my sister and stuff like that, but I do. I love all my family members. It's just, I don't know. And I guess another reason I made this video, not only to make this, I promise I'm not trying to be depressing in any way. It's more or less to vent, but also as well, how do you guys handle stuff like this? I doubt very many people have had a lot of catastrophic things happen kind of back to back to back to the point where effectively I'm numb to it at this point. But I want to know, how do you guys deal with this situation? How do you deal with these emotions? Because I'm autistic as fuck. I'm not saying that as a meme, I'm being serious. But the reason I say that is that's where my lack of emotional intellect comes from. It's hard for me to understand people, nonetheless understand my own emotions. You don't need to fill the comments with, oh, I'm so sorry for you, oh, this is crazy, stuff like that. Like you can do an air high five, a virtual high five, okay? There you go, that's our virtual high five, all right? Please, I promise I'm not doing this to garner attention or anything like that. I just genuinely think I needed to vent. And the person I would normally vent to would be my boy Mystic. But he's been dealing with so much shit of his own. It feels almost wrong to drop shit on his plate like that. He's my boy. He's the only other person I've known my entire life that I effectively grown up with. I've known him since I was 3 years old. Mystic is my boy. He'll always be my boy. I always have his back if he needs anything. He always has my back if I need anything. But I feel like it's almost a moral obligation to not drop a bunch of shit in his lap. He just definitely wouldn't be able to process correctly, and I don't want him thinking about my life when he has much more important shit going on in his. Because what happened on my side, what's done is done. People died, people got sick. on his side, he's dealing with shit in real time. So there's no reason for me to go and, spill all this shit out to him. But listen, I love you guys. I love making YouTube videos, but it's no coincidence that I randomly started posting again. Making videos and playing games is literally the main reason that I'm even completely fine as it is. That is as much as I yell and scream at some video games, it is a mental safe space for me. I'm sure it is for a lot of you too. I'm sure a lot of my fellow gamers out there understand that. But listen, if you guys want to talk, I always put my Discord. Don't go to the server. You can just message me directly. But yeah, listen, my stuff's down there if you ever want to chit chat. But this video is kind of getting long and I don't want to make it a 55-hour video. But listen, I love you guys and I'll see you around.